All right, we are back in the wood shop, and we have a big chunk of black walnut that I am going to use to make an end table. So here I am, shimming it up. First thing is a piece I cut off of a much larger piece that I've had for a long time. Didn't know what to do with. Finally, I sliced a piece off and went to work. So I'm gluing it to the ground, shimming it flat as I can, so that I can take my router and router sled here with a big old flattening bit on there. And I'm going to flatten her. That's what I'm doing here. First thing, flatten the slab. A few passes, get it as low as I can, get it as flat as I can. I think this will end up being the top side. Flipped it. Did the same thing to the bottom side. Once it was flat, I brought it up to the old workbench here, grabbed a chisel, and started chiseling away these kind of gross edges. I don't want anything too loose in there. So I went between a chisel and a wire wheel. You can kind of see the wire wheel marks in the end product, which I don't hate. I like them. Kind of gives that, especially the rough sawn edge, a little more character. Here I'm filling in the cracks and crevices with some tabletop resin. A little black mica dye in there. Kind of just hide the cracks. I think black is just the most elegant way to go, fill in cracks. Obviously that doesn't look great now, but once I router back down, which is what I'm doing here. Back on the ground, back in the router sled. Flatten her back out. Took quite a bit more off here, probably more than I wanted, but still ended up with about an inch and a half. Inch and 3/4 table. Took her down, use a 70 grit on the belt sander, get that shape down, get those marks out from the router. Then I think I hit it with the 120 on the orbital. Eventually I'll take a wire wheel to that live edge again, get all that resin off of there. But yeah, this is pretty much the end sand here. I'll probably sand a little more, but not much more after that. I think you'll see a little water pop here. Give us a little sneak peek of the end product. There you go. Hit it with some water just to pop the grain and see what I'm working with. There's some holes in the resin there. I'll end up putting a little more resin in. I think in the very last bit I use a little super glue. What kind of helicopters these are? I don't know. Just random ass helicopters flying over. They're pretty big, pretty military. If you know what they are, let me know. All right, leg time. Working on the legs. This is some pine that I had, just some yellow pine, I believe, for a different project I never used. I figured I could utilize these to make some kind of modern looking legs. Whipped up a little finger joint sled here. I was pretty proud of. You know, you can go buy a big expensive sled, or you can just make one. It took me about an hour to dial it in, just because I didn't know what I was doing, but I think I dialed it in pretty good, maybe a little too good. This ended up being a little too tight once I added the glue, but look at that. That's a pretty nice joint there. And of course, I got it squared, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to take it all apart. And then with the same sled, on the back side, I flipped it around and made it so I can cut these half lap joints easily. So I'm cutting the uprights on the legs right now. The finger joints were the kind of top and bottom of the leg structure. There it is. I needed a nice strong joint for these, so So here you can see what I was talking about when I said they were a little too tight. People always say you want a little room for glue, and I did not leave a little room for glue. I was pounding on it, squeezing it. I used these this long clamp to try to push them in. It was seizing up on me, so I got these in. Eventually, I ended up sanding the rest of the joints that I was putting together. I ended up taking some 120, getting them in there and making them a little looser, which did make it a little easier to slide them in. But even then, I ended up throwing them on the workbench and pounding them in with the hammer and the block. Really pounding them in, kind of overhanging them onto my sled track there. There's a little glue squeeze out. I was really getting that last little squeeze out in there. Got them in, squared them up, cleaned off as much of the glue as I could. Getting those half laps on. This is the easy part of the legs. Everything was right angle. It was all done on the table saw using right angle jigs and sleds, so everything was pretty square. And then I used a chisel to kind of do the rest. Here's a little sharp chisel end grain shave action. Pretty satisfying, actually. Got those cleaned up, and then I started sanding. I sanded and sanded and sanded and sanded. I probably sanded these legs for probably 5 hours, using a chisel to clean out the joints, get all the little glue out so I could get the stain on there. I used a real light stain. It ended up turning out nice. I took a router to the edges right here. Got a nice bevel on them. Real light bevel. I think they look good. Here I am cutting a big back bevel in the back side of the slab. My camera died, so you don't see me finish it, but I used a piece of wood as a guide and about a 30-degree angle on my circular saw. Cut a nice square angle on the back, which enabled me to throw my tabletop into the sled here and square up the sides. And then I think I didn't show it, but I took the router and I beveled all the edges. And here you see me putting the finish on. Beautiful. Getting in all those cracks and crevices. There's the wire wheel marks you see, which I kind of dig. Everything's real clean except for those live edges. Like just leaving a little of the past on there. I used a dark walnut Danish oil. And I wanted it real dark. As dark as I could, so I did. And then, of course, I'm watching Cosner Classic, Waterworld. Not a bomb. Great movie. Here I'm very carefully drilling holes to attach the hardware for the legs. These are just little L brackets that are gonna connect top to the bottom. And here is the final product. And man, it is smooth. I brushed on a couple coats of poly and then wet sanded that with 800 grit sandpaper, hit it with some quadruple zero steel wool, and then sprayed a final coat of poly on top of that, and it is smooth. Gorgeous pattern in the grain. I love the way this came out. Simple legs. Like them for now. Might change them later, but that's it.